Donald Trump's criticism of Harvard University has sparked considerable debate, drawing attention to his broader stance on education and political ideologies in the United States. His discontent with prestigious institutions like Harvard primarily stems from his perception that they promote ideologies contrary to his views, especially concerning diversity, racial justice, and political correctness. Trump believes that these universities support left-wing political movements, with many faculty members and students leaning toward the Democratic Party. This tension over political ideologies in education is not just limited to Harvard but extends to other elite universities, including Stanford and Columbia, which Trump criticizes for fostering environments that align with his political opposition. Donald Trump's criticism of Harvard University and similar prestigious institutions has been a major point of contention, particularly when it comes to his view on the university's commitment to political ideologies. Trump often portrays institutions like Harvard as breeding grounds for left-wing ideologies, which he believes are out of touch with the broader values he upholds. His criticisms have been fueled by the university's support for diversity, equity, and inclusion (DI) policies, which he feels prioritize certain groups at the expense of others and promote a political agenda contrary to his own. One of Trump's most vocal criticisms is the emphasis these universities place on political correctness, which he sees as a form of indoctrination. He argues that institutions like Harvard have increasingly catered to progressive values, endorsing policies that promote gender and racial diversity and at times even supporting movements that he believes to be politically charged, such as Black Lives Matter and other social justice causes. This, he argues, results in a campus culture that is hostile to conservative viewpoints and is disproportionately aligned with the Democratic Party. Trump has specifically targeted Harvard for its involvement with what he calls the promotion of anti-Semitic movements. He claims that the university, by not actively opposing or even promoting such movements, is contributing to an environment of hostility toward Jewish people. This criticism also extends to other universities that have shown similar tendencies in their student activism or faculty research, such as Columbia and Stanford. Trump's concern is that these institutions are not merely centers of higher learning but have become political battlegrounds, where students are taught to reject traditional American values in favor of progressive, often divisive, ideologies. The diversity initiatives at these institutions, including support for gender-neutral bathrooms, LGBTQ pride events, and scholarships for underrepresented groups, are seen by Trump as evidence of an overreaching political agenda. He believes that these policies are not about fostering equality or inclusion but about advancing a political narrative that favors the left. In his view, the focus on these issues undermines merit-based admissions and perpetuates division rather than unity. Moreover, Trump has criticized universities like Harvard for not doing enough to address the rise of anti-Semitism within student movements, especially those advocating for Palestinian rights. Many of these students, Trump argues, are subtly promoting anti-Israel sentiments and, by extension, anti-Semitic beliefs. He contends that these activities are being normalized within academic settings, with little opposition from university leadership, which he believes is tantamount to endorsing such ideologies. Trump's broader political ideology is intertwined with his views on these universities. He believes that the education system in the U.S. is being overtaken by left-wing ideologies that challenge the very foundations of American society. In his rhetoric, he often compares these schools to institutions that train students to embrace hate and stupidity, as he claims Harvard does, due to its embrace of progressive social movements. For Trump, the solution lies in eliminating the influence of these ideologies in academia and refocusing on a more traditional, conservative educational framework that values free speech and intellectual diversity, free from political indoctrination. In conclusion, Trump's critique of universities like Harvard reflects his broader battle against the rise of progressive ideologies in American institutions. While these universities tout their commitment to diversity and inclusion, Trump sees these initiatives as a smokescreen for promoting a political agenda that aligns with the Democratic Party. For him, the challenge lies in reclaiming education from what he perceives to be the far-left's stranglehold on academia, returning to an environment where diverse opinions can be freely expressed without the fear of ideological censorship. Trump's unwavering support for Israel has become a key element in his political stance, especially when it comes to his views on the Israel-Palestine conflict. This strong pro-Israel position contrasts sharply with the perspectives held by many students and activists at universities, including those at institutions like Harvard, where there is notable support for Palestinian rights. Trump views Israel as a close ally of the United States, with its security interests aligning with American foreign policy in the Middle East. He believes that Israel is often unfairly targeted in international discussions and policies, particularly in relation to its military actions and its stance on the Palestinian territories. On the other hand, many students at universities support the Palestinian cause, advocating for the recognition of Palestinian rights and condemning Israeli military practices. This divergence in viewpoints creates a tense atmosphere on campuses, especially when pro-Palestinian activism takes the form of protests or public statements that challenge U.S. foreign policy. Students who participate in these movements often view their actions as a part of a broader struggle for human rights, whereas Trump and his supporters perceive these protests as a threat to the strong U.S.-Israel relationship, which they see as crucial to maintaining stability in the region. The tension between these differing political ideologies highlights a broader issue in U.S. universities: the balance between freedom of speech and political activism. Trump has often criticized university administrations for allowing what he sees as anti-Israel sentiment to flourish unchecked on campus. He believes that universities should foster a more balanced environment where diverse political opinions can be expressed without one side dominating the conversation. However, the challenge lies in maintaining that balance, especially when certain political movements, like pro-Palestinian activism, are seen as deeply controversial by those who support Israel. This situation raises critical questions about the role of universities in shaping political discourse. Should institutions uphold free speech even when it involves controversial or divisive topics, such as the Israel-Palestine conflict? Or should they intervene when speech appears to promote ideologies that could be seen as harmful or biased, such as anti-Semitic rhetoric, which has occasionally emerged in the context of some pro-Palestinian protests? These are the questions that universities, including elite institutions like Harvard, must grapple with as they try to balance their commitment to academic freedom with the responsibility of maintaining a respectful and inclusive environment for all students. In this complex political landscape, Trump's stance on Israel continues to influence the discourse around free speech and activism on U.S. campuses, creating an ongoing debate about the limits of political expression in higher education. As pro-Palestinian movements persist and university administrations are pressed to respond, the challenge of managing free speech while addressing the potential for conflict remains a significant issue for both policymakers and academic leaders. The importance of freedom of speech in universities has become a critical topic in the context of modern academic environments. Universities are traditionally seen as spaces where individuals can express diverse viewpoints, engage in open discussions, and challenge ideas. This environment encourages critical thinking and the exploration of controversial topics without fear of censorship. However, in recent years, there has been an increasing tension between this ideal and the rise of political correctness, particularly on U.S. campuses. Political correctness, a concept that aims to avoid language or behavior that could be seen as discriminatory, has raised concerns about its impact on free speech. On one hand, political correctness promotes inclusivity and respect, ensuring that marginalized groups are not subjected to harmful or offensive language. On the other hand, critics argue that it can stifle free expression, making individuals hesitant to speak their minds out of fear of backlash. Trump has consistently voiced his concerns that politically correct policies in universities suppress debate and discourage the open exchange of ideas, especially when it comes to controversial political matters such as the Israel-Palestine conflict. In Trump's view, the increasing focus on political correctness within academic institutions has gone too far. He believes that universities, particularly prestigious ones like Harvard, should uphold their role as places where differing opinions are freely expressed, regardless of how uncomfortable or divisive those opinions may be. He has argued that the push for inclusivity and the support for certain political ideologies have led to the silencing of conservative or dissenting voices, making it harder for students to engage in open and constructive debates. This issue has become more pronounced in the context of political movements like pro-Palestinian activism, which often clashes with pro-Israel policies supported by Trump. As a result, universities are now facing a delicate balancing act: how to maintain a welcoming environment for all students while also respecting the fundamental right to free speech. Trump's critique of politically correct policies points to a broader concern about the future of open discourse in academia, questioning whether the increasing regulation of speech is undermining the very purpose of higher education to foster a space for the free exchange of ideas, even when those ideas challenge the status quo. The ongoing debate over freedom of speech and political correctness in universities continues to shape the landscape of higher education, with both sides emphasizing the need for balance, respect, and academic freedom. Trump's conflict with Harvard University centers around ideological differences, particularly regarding the institution's stance on Israel and its policies related to diversity and inclusion. Trump has frequently accused Harvard of promoting anti-Semitism and adopting an anti-Israel position, claims that have fueled his criticism of the university. These accusations are part of a broader political debate where Trump's support for Israel directly contrasts with some of the positions taken by students and faculty at Harvard. Trump's views on Israel are deeply personal and politically driven. His unwavering support for Israel, including his controversial decision to recognize Jerusalem as its capital, has shaped his political platform. This has extended to his critiques of universities like Harvard, which he believes fosters a hostile environment toward Israel. He points to student protests and faculty positions that criticize Israeli policies, often framing them as part of a larger trend of anti-Semitic sentiment gaining ground in American academia. These allegations are not just about a disagreement over Israeli policies but also reflect Trump's broader concerns with the direction that American universities have taken in recent years. The accusations of anti-Semitism are deeply tied to Trump's own political ideology, which is firmly aligned with right-wing, pro-Israel stances. The accusations also touch on the increasing polarization in U.S. politics, where higher education institutions are seen by many conservatives as being out of touch with mainstream American values. Trump argues that Harvard, and other universities that share similar views, have allowed an atmosphere where pro-Palestinian activism can flourish unchecked, which he believes undermines the safety and respect owed to Jewish students. This ideological clash between Trump and universities like Harvard reflects a larger cultural divide in American politics. It raises important questions about the role of universities in shaping public discourse and whether they should be spaces for open dialogue or more politically controlled environments. While Trump's views on Israel and anti-Semitism have drawn significant attention, they also reflect his broader concerns about what he perceives as a political correctness culture that stifles open debate. In the context of the ongoing battle between freedom of speech and political correctness, Trump's accusations highlight the complexities of balancing free expression with institutional policies in modern academia. In conclusion, Donald Trump's critique of higher education, particularly institutions like Harvard, highlights his concerns about the intersection of politics, education, and ideological influence. His accusations of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel stances within these institutions reflect deeper political divides, with his pro-Israel stance contrasting sharply against the progressive values promoted at universities. The challenge lies in balancing freedom of speech with the political agendas present in academia. This tension is not only visible in the US but globally, where education systems are increasingly entangled in political and ideological struggles, raising critical questions about the role of universities in shaping future societies.